I will let you. I'll let you take over. I don't think you're going to get all 40 today, so let's wait till about 15 or so show up, and then go ahead and start the lab.
Okay, works for me.
See. You are now in control.
Don't think so, because it says host is disabled, participant screen share.
Oh, make you host again. Try now.
That should do it. All right.
Yeah, you're
We've
good.
got-
I can see your screen.
Okay, cool.
Bring up the chat box.
We've got 20 people, and
That's good enough. Go ahead and start.
yeah. All right, so today we're going to be talking about some data structures, most of which are lists. So what is a data structure? Well, as I've said before, everything in your computer, all the data, is zeros and ones. That's not very fun to work with. A little bit above that, we have some assembly language, which is basically basic instructions on how to do stuff like move this data from here to here, add it from here to here. All the way up at the top, we have high level things like integers, x equals 3, or floats, y equals 3.0, or strings like that. Well, what if I want to have what if I want to associate the fact that I have this constant called pi. It has a value, so there's a name and a value. Well, how am I supposed to have a data structure that has both of those? Well, that's how we get into something called this is a linear data structure. It's a scalar, meaning there's just one. There's only one part of this variable. It's a string. Well, we can have what's called a list, and we've actually seen one before. A list is a collection of data that are somehow related. It's a convenient way to refer to a collection of similar things by a single name and using an index to identify a particular item. In engineering and data science, we use them a lot. We often call them vectors, arrays, matrices, and such, but they are ultimately just lists. To declare a list, you can write the name just like you would with a variable, and you use these two square brackets to indicate that you want to have a list. So if I want to have a list, I can say my pi variable is a list. The first value is the name, and the second value is the value. I'll print it. And there you go. You can add to an existing list using the append method. So if I wanted to add another thing here, like the number of digits, I could do that. Usually, well, you actually do use this quite a bit. At least I do in programming stuff. I don't know, because the times you would use an append is usually going to be part of a package you're just going to download and use. So we'll see. If you want an empty list to start out with, this is how you do it. You just don't have anything in the list. Just like that. First element in the list has index 0. Second has an index of 1, and so on. We access the contents of a list by referring to its name and index. For example, my list index 3 is a value of 9. Why is that? Is because 9 is the value at position 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3. All right, let's run this. So we're going to make an empty list. Cool, print it out. It's right here. Now we're going to append the number 765 to it. All right, so we did that. And then we're going to print our list again. This is just like saying I'm going to make a variable, x equals 0, and then I'm going to say x equals x plus 1. It's just like that. Our list is basically our list plus this. Instead of plus, we're appending it. We make another list, hard code it to be these values, print it out. I can say a sublist using our colon operator here, meaning go from position 3 up to position 6, but not including it. So it's going to get 3, 4, and 5. So this is 3, 4, and 5. We can take the sum of the list using the sum method. I guess it's a function. It'll work on lists in which it can basically do the plus operation on. If the plus will work on every element of the list, then it'll work. But if you put something in here, kind of like just that should throw a monkey wrench into things, because I can't add a string to an integer. I can't actually do addition. And the length function is len. Gives you the length, how many elements exist in the sublist. Very useful, because sometimes you need to know how many items are in a list so that you can iterate through it properly. So that is a list. Anybody have any questions on that? Trying to think. Okay, let's make a list. From user input of any amount of, you guys don't know how to do string parsing, so that would be kind of tough. User of 3 numbers. Okay. Okay, we can do that. And then print the last 2. Okay. So I want to make a list here. I'll call it my list. What's the syntax to start out a list? What's the syntax to make just an empty list? Yep, square bracket. Got it. All right, so I need to make a list from an input of 3 numbers. Now, how on earth am I going to do that? Let's focus on getting the first number. How do I get a number from the user? Input? Yeah, we probably want to use the input function. What do we want to do with it? What do we want to do with this input function? What's it, what good does it do us? Oh, you want to append to it? We could do that. To use the append function, we take the list name and append, just like that. Now, this might work. Let's try it. Print my list. Okay. It wants input, so I'll give it some input. All right. Turned it out my apple. So it appended to the list. Is this good? Is this doing what we want? Do we need to do anything else before I move on to getting the second number? And the easy part is we just get to copy and paste. Are we good, or do we need to do something else? That's the question. Can we move on, or are we done? Shouldn't you force it to be an integer if you want a number? Yes, that is in the description. It has to be an integer. So you noticed that I put in a string. It's kind of a problem. How do I make a string into an integer? Can someone other than Hazim or Christopher tell me? How do I make a string into an integer? You're going to struggle on the homework if you don't know how to do this particular thing. All right, there's one. So we're going to cast it to an integer using the int function. Now the int function works like this. Just like that. So now I'm turning the string of the character 3 into an integer and storing it next. Cool. Now it needs to go in here somewhere. Where do I put the int? That's the question. I could put it here. Is this the right spot? Is this where I should turn my whatever's inside of here into an integer? Put it outside. Okay, we could do that. Put it outside. So like this. Is that where you want me to put it, Aiden? Okay, let's try it, see what it does. I'm gonna actually try to put in a number now. So 5. All right, we kind of have an issue. Int argument must be a string. A byte like object or a number. So it works here, but it didn't work here. So we have it in the wrong spot. We tried it here and we tried it here. There's only 2 places left. I can put it here or I can put it inside of here. So which one should I do? Should I do it here or should I do it here? Well, let's think about this for a second. What is the integer function looking for? It's looking for a string. It needs a string to be its input. Is the thing in between these 2 parentheses a string? Now, if nobody can answer that question, we have a serious problem. What is between those 2 parentheses? The 2 highlighted parentheses. What's in between them? String? I don't see a string in there. Do you see the... I don't see the characters string. I don't see them. Exactly. There's nothing in between them. And nothing is not a string. So it wouldn't make much sense to put it here. This doesn't make much sense. Now, let's ask the question, what about this? The input function gives us something back. What kind of thing does it give us back? Does it give us an integer? Does it give us a list? Does it give us nothing? What does it give us? What does the input function do? It gives us a list. Okay. It doesn't give us a list. It actually gives us a string. The input function prompts the user for put it in front of input. Yep, that is exactly where we need to put it. We need to put it here because this is where the string comes in. All right, so we're turning our string into an integer. Let's see if it works. I think I have too many parentheses. All right. Input. Let's break it up. X equals int x. Easy, easy. And then we're going to append x onto. Oh, I didn't erase the first int. That's the problem. There. So we have appended an integer from the user to our list. Now, the nice thing is we can just copy and paste this. All right. So it's wants 3 integers. I'll give it 1, 2, and 3. And we have a list of 1, 2, and 3. The last thing I have to do is print the last two of my list. Now I'm printing 3 here. That's not the right number. So how do I get this to print out 2, 3, the last two? Well, there's going to be a print statement. I'll give you that much. Actually, and we're going to be needing to somehow have the name of the list in there. And the name is my list. So what extra stuff can I do to make this print the last 2? Now, since we know there's only 3, I don't have to do anything like figure out what the number of the last 2 is going to be. So
I don't know graphics to use. I'm fucking 5.
Interesting. So does anybody know what kind of syntax do we use to get a sublist? We just talked about it. It's up here. So we want to use the brackets, that's right, with a colon in the center. What that will do is give us a sublist. Now the question is, too many sublists equal? Not sure what you mean by that. Oh, gotcha. So what this does is it says, I want part of my list from here to here, not inclusive. So the question is, I want the last 2. So what numbers do I need to put in there? Well, this is at position 0, this is at position 1, and this is at position 2. So what do I need to do in order to get the last 2? 1, 2? Okay, let's try it. It's not a comma, but I get what you're trying to say. Let's try it. Same numbers, 1, 2, and 3. It gives me a list of length 1. This means I'm only getting the middle element. Why is that? Is because the thing on the right-hand side, it only goes up to it and not including it. So if I make it a 3, I will get the second and third element. Okay, there we go. Everything you learned here, we used here, except for some, but that's okay. All right, there's a special kind of list called a tuple. You notice that we were appending to our list here. But with a tuple, it's a special kind of list where the values can't be changed after it's made. It's useful for things that are what are called static. So there's static and there's dynamic. Dynamic means I want to be able to change it. Static means once it's made, it stays there. Like the days in the week, that doesn't change. So we declare a tuple like a list, except we use parentheses instead of brackets. So once I make this, I can't add to or subtract from this tuple. Tuples are, we are not going to be using them that much. Just you need to know that if you want a list that doesn't change, this is the way to do it. There's always the option of not changing your list, but if you want something that specifically can't be changed, that's fine too. Another kind of special list is a dictionary, and we will be using these a lot. So please speak up if there's something about the dictionary that you don't follow. Special kind of list where items are related in pairs. The second item itself could be a list. So a dictionary would be a meaningful way to build a database in Python. If you want a dictionary, you use the curly braces here. So here in my dictionary, it's the names and mass of my pets. So Dusty is a string and 7.8 is a float. So in this dictionary, it appears that we have a string related to a float. So Dusty is 7.8, I'll assume kilograms. Aspen is 6.3 kilograms, and Maramy is very small, 0.03 kilograms. We can also use this syntax here. The dictionary function can take things like this. So this take a variable and with a value, and it will make a dictionary out of it. So here's some examples. This is our tuple. I've got my tuple, and let's add a new month. Let's say my tuple name. Append, I don't know, X. You can't append to a tuple. Makes sense. Because it's a tuple. But yeah, just like a list, except there's parentheses instead of square brackets. Here, we're doing the exact code we had above for making dictionary. As you see, it's pretty much the same. This value here is a little different. But what we have here is just like X is 1, Y is 2, Z is 3. It's just all in one line. So I'm making a dictionary out of some variables here. And then we print them out. So there you have it. Dictionaries are going to be they're going to be used a lot. So let's look at another example. We got our tuple back. And what are we going to do with this tuple? We're going to get the fifth element of our tuple. So we use the 4 because it's starting counting at 0. All right, so I printed out. Fifth element of the tuple is May. Yep, sure is. Now, what do we want to do with our dictionary? Well, we're going to go in and say that Aspen's mass is. Now, I'm going to access my dictionary just like I do a list. But instead of giving it a number here, I'm giving it the name of the value I'm looking for. This is called the key. So this here is the key, and this is the value. Thing on the left-hand side of the colon is the key, and the thing on the right-hand side is the value. Now keep in mind the value could be another list or whatever. So in our dictionary, Dusty has value 7.8. Aspen has value 6.3. Maramy has value 0.03. Okay, so Aspen's mass is 6.3. How do I know that? Is because the key Aspen has value 6.3. Maramy's mass is 0.03. I can change the value in my dictionary like this. I can directly say that Maramy's value in our dictionary is 0.01. I can also say that Maramy's value is itself minus 0.01. Huh, interesting. Instead of saying 0.02, this is what we got. Anyway, then we redeclare the dictionary. Oh, this is a new one. In this new one, we can print out the mass just like we did before. It's right back to what it was. Let's see what happens. So I tried to add something to my tuple before. Didn't work. Let's see what happens when I want to change something. So I want to change the fourth element to Fred. We can't do that. Tuple does not support item assignment, meaning I can't change anything in here. Okay, that's what I thought. The thing on the left-hand side, the key, does not have to be a string. It's just generally, when you're making a dictionary, which is essentially a database, the first key is generally, I guess not the first, but the outer level key is usually a string, just because it's when you think of a dictionary, right? Even the book. When I want to know the meaning of something, usually the thing I'm looking for is a word. So it's a string. That's the most useful thing. Even if I'm trying to look up the number 3, like what does 3 have to do with anything? That's the string I'm going to search for. So generally you want strings, but you can have whatever you want. You can even reverse these. We could have 7.8 on the left-hand side and Dusty on the right. I may not like it, but no, that's fine. And then let's see, what would happen if I did this? 7.8. And we'll see. 7.8. What's the mass of 7.8? 7.8's mass is Dusty. Whatever that means. But yeah, it's just keys and values. That's all it is. You got a key and you have its associated value. Every key has one value, even if that value is nothing. You can't have a key with more than one value. Now, if I want, let's say, a key to have more than one value, I can kind of do that, but I need to make a list for my value. And that's how we would do that, which is what we're going to look at right here. We have a nested dictionary. Now, I'm going to run through this, and then I'm going to show you a nice method so it's not so confusing. All right, so I'm going to print out my dictionary. There it is, the dictionary. All right, so I'm going to ask a couple of questions as we go through this to make sure people are actually getting it, because this can be kind of tough. How many key value pairs does this dictionary have? Now, you're like, what the heck? What the heck is a key value pair? A key value pair is the things in between commas. The key on the left, value on the right. It's a pair because there are two. On the left is 1, on the right is 2. So it is a key value pair. How many key value pairs does this dictionary have? I think there's actually a method to do it. And I'll think about that while I actually tell you. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3. There's 3 key value pairs in this one. I don't know off the top of my head, but let's print. It's either, let's try length, see what that does. 3. Length works just fine. So if I were to print out the length, which I can, but I won't yet, it would tell me the answer to this question. So can someone tell me how many key value pairs does this dictionary have? 3. Yep. There's 1 right here. There's 1 right here. And there's 1 right here. Now, you could just count the commas and take -1. That works. All right. So if I take my dictionary and I want the value for the key 2020, what's that value going to be? Well, first off, so here's 1 key value pair, here's 2 key value pairs, here's 3 key value pairs. Which one is the key value pair for the key 2020? Is it 1, 2, or 3? 2. Yes, it is. So that's this one here. So this is the key for the second one, and this is the value for the second one. What kind of thing is this value? Is it a string? Is it an integer? Is it a float? Those are usually the 3 kind of things we deal with. Is it what kind of thing is this? Is it an integer, a string, or a float? Or none of them?
String.
You say it's a string. Okay, well, we can test that. I'm going to print it out, and I can do print type. Type's a lovely thing. What's the type of 3.4? It's a float. What's the type of 3? It's an integer. What's the type of, of 3, the character? It's string. So what's the type of the thing we're trying to mess with? I don't know. Let's look. Out of curiosity, I'm going to do type on FD, see what it says, dictionary. So that's nice. What's the type of the thing we're looking for? What's the type of this? It is the value for the key 2020. It is a list. It's not a string. It's a list. Why is it a list? Well, you see these 2 characters here, these square brackets. It indicates that it is a list. String is not a bad guess. Neither was integer because it has both. Definitely understand why you would make that guess, but it is indeed a list. All right. So then if I uncomment this, if in case people were bamboozled by what I was doing here, if I put a pound sign in the middle of a line, everything to the right is commented out and it won't run. All right. So take the list we're getting, and I slap this on there. So if I run this now, what's going to print out? Someone tell me, other than the people who've already spoken up, please. I'll reset that after we are done with this. What will print out when I run this line? Pandemic. Why is that? Well, I have a list. This doesn't look like a list, but it is a list. How do I know? Because I just printed it out. And when I take a list and I print and I use these brackets, it's called indexing. So I want to index into my list and get the position 3 element. And remember, we count from 0, 0, 1, 2, and 3. So let's see. Yep. Pandemic. That is what comes out. Good job. Now, as I said, I've got a lovely trick for you guys. This dictionary, especially because it's nested, can be kind of hard to look at, kind of hard to understand. So I'm going to do the following using new lines and some tabs. All right, so I have my 3 key value pairs here. How do I know I did this right? Because I just inserted a new line after every comma and then at the end. Now, what's the next thing I'm going to do? I'm going to put a tab on everything inside of my dictionary. Now, this doesn't change anything in the code. It's just visually easier to look at. All right, good job. I'm done. Sort of. I'm going to do the same process here. I guess I'll do it like that. Everything in here, I'm going to look for my commas, and I'm going to add a new line. And then I'll put this at the end. All right. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Do the same thing. I think that looks nicer. The bracket at the end, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so I did my process, but notice this one still has a list to it. It's just a tuple. So I'm going to do it again. Get my comma right here. And oops, that's weird. Tab wanted me to do something else. Okay. This lets me more easily look at the dictionary structure. So what's my first key value pair? It's this. What's the key? It's that. What's the value? It's that. What's my second one? Well, here's the key and here's the value. How many values are there in my list? 4. Now here I have a key with a list that has 1, 2, 3 values. The third value itself is also a tuple. So that could get tricky, but I think this is a little easier to read. So you can use that or not use it at your own discretion. Okay. So can someone tell me, we'll start from here. What is this going to print out when I hit execute? And anyone can answer again. If I print my dictionary and I want the value for bond, what's it going to print out? Tokyo? You're jumping a little bit ahead. I have commented out the 2 and the 1. But it's good thinking. If I hit execute right now, this is what's going to be shown in the next cell. So I'll go ahead and see if you were right. Yep, you were correct. Now, if I were to go through this step by step, the all of bond, yep, pretty much. It would be everything here. It would be the list here. Now, what if I then put the 2 here? It says, okay, we'll take everything in here. And what in here is position 2? Is it this one, or that one? Which one is position 2? We got this one, the cities. Yes, it is. This is position 2. Okay, so if I run this at position 2, I'll get the whole tuple. Now, if I take the tuple and I want position, let's make it 1 for sake of consistency. What will I get? Will I get Paris, Tokyo, or London? Well, we already got Tokyo, so you know this is the one at position 1. Oops, I want to run that one. Because I didn't put print statements on everything, this is why it only prints out the last thing. It's kind of how it works. But I like seeing debug, so that is what we will do. Okay, just like I said, we're going from the outside in. It's like peeling an onion. Okay, so that is everything in the actual lab itself. It's kind of short because this can be a little confusing. And I will stop here to let anyone who has any questions about dictionary ask them. I highly, highly encourage you to ask them because, if I remember correctly, the homework has a nested dictionary Not only does it have, is it a nested dictionary, but it has dictionaries within dictionaries. So you, it is in your best interest to get as good of a grasp on this as you can. And I'll be here for assisting with that. Short but dense is the lab. So, while people think of questions or they stare at me as I try to think of something clever to say, I will write some more code. What are we going to do? Nested dictionaries is really the most complicated part. So let's build a nested dictionary from the inside out. So the question is, so a dictionary is just the same as a list, but with different brackets, sort of. I'll explain it like this. A rectangle is a shape with 4 sides, each at 90 degrees. You've got, you know, length and width. A square is a shape who has 4 sides, each at 90 degrees, but each side has the same length. So a square is a rectangle. It's a special case of a rectangle. But not every rectangle is a square. Take a rectangle with length 2 and height 4. That is not a square. Take a rectangle with height 2 and length 4 or length 2. That is a square. So every dictionary is a type of list, but not every list is a dictionary. But make a list. That's the syntax we talk about for making a regular old list. If I use the parentheses, we have a tuple. Still a list, technically, but it's a tuple. And if I use these, it's saying I am making a dictionary. Still a list, but it is a dictionary. What's the point of any of all this stuff? Is because as you saw, where did I put it? Here, a lot of the functions that work on lists will work on a dictionary. Why is that? It's because it's still a list. So hopefully that helps. Right, so we were going to build a dictionary. What are we going to put in our dictionary? Who knows? Let's call it dictionary 1. This is a dictionary. And I'm going to say, I would like to associate apple with fruit and I don't know, onion is vegetable. These are all strings. So can somebody give me the syntax for doing that in my dictionary 1 here? I'll even call it food. We want another one saying thing I just talked about. Rectangle shape. Square is a rectangle. Okay, so what do I put here in order to have a dictionary with key apple and value fruit, both of them being strings? Well, in a dictionary, we need the colon symbol because it tells us what's on the left is the key and what on the right is the value. All right, yep, that's exactly what we do. Apple goes there and fruit goes there. Okay, how do I put a second key value pair into my dictionary? Use a comma, yep. And we're gonna want one of those. And we'll put onion on the left and vegetable on the right. It could be anything. I just had to pick something that kind of made sense. All right, there's a dictionary. Now, how do I know it's a dictionary? Well, because I was careful and also I could do this. I can do type. It is a dictionary. Cool. All right, there's my dictionary. What's my dictionary for onion. It's vegetable. Okay, so that's working. Now, how do I do the same thing for this? Well, that's pretty simple. I can just copy it and say that rectangle, the shape, and the square is a rectangle. I could put nonsense in here if I want. I could just put gobbledygook. It doesn't really matter. We're interested more in the dictionaries themselves. All right. Now, to make sure this works, let's put that here. See if my actual dictionary is truly a dictionary and see what a square gives me. In fact, I can put the number here, even though it doesn't make any sense. It works. It's fine. All right. Now what I want to do is make a dictionary out of dictionaries. So what's the syntax to make a dictionary? The syntax to make a list is that. Syntax to make a tuple is that. So what's the syntax to make a dictionary? What symbols indicate that this is a dictionary and not a list or tuple? It's the curly brace. That's right. So start like that. Every dictionary is going to at least have these. Okay. So I would like to have the food as the key for my shapes. So how would I go about doing that? Well, we got to have a colon, right? In order to make part of a dictionary. So what do I do with this? I want food to be the key for shapes. So what do I put maybe this in here somewhere? Do I put my onion and apple? Because maybe that's it. I take apple and onion and rectangle and square and put them on the left because those are all keys. Then I take fruit and vegetable and shape and 3.14159 and put them on the right because those are all values. Is that what I should do? Yeah, that's pretty close. I'll show you what happens when we do it. And then, well, that's the thing. I have made a new dictionary out of these two strings, but I don't want to do that. I want to actually make them out of my variables, out of my dictionary above. So instead of putting the quotes, I'm going to put that. Ooh, so one of it doesn't like having one. So let's see what that means. Is when I said there's a key value pair, the thing on the left has to be scalar, meaning there's only one. So I'll make it a string. Let's do that. Okay. So now I have a nested dictionary. How do I know? Well, let's start printing this thing out. Print the type of this and then print it out. And then we'll do, well, I can just get rid of it, can't I? All right, print it out. It is indeed a dictionary. What does it look like? It looks like this. This looks eerily similar to this. So let's go deeper. What is a key in my dictionary here? Can someone give me a key from my dictionary? There's only one. Apple is not a key for this dictionary. Apple is a key way down in the level. It is way down. It's right here. So dictionary list, correct. So if I do the following and say, I want to print out whatever's here. I want to see what it is and its value. Okay, so here is our dictionary. And what is the value for dictionary list? The value is a list. How do I know it's a list? It's because it's in square brackets. Now, what's inside of this list? I don't know. Let's see what the first element is. How do I get the first element? Do 0. The first element in my list is a dictionary. Now, you mentioned the key apple. Now we can mess with that. If I do that, what are we going to get? I got a string. What kind of thing did I get? I got a string, and the value is this. So we have built a nested dictionary from the bottom up. Now, hopefully, the thing I just went through is going to be incredibly useful to you. So I truly hope you were paying attention. I didn't get any other questions during that time. So I will give about 30 seconds before I end the lab and let it start recording or rendering. So anyone got anything? This is getting kind of meta. Yes, it is. If you plug in the following, if I print that, what am I going to get? Well, this is a string. So gives me string. This is the literal string. There's an acronym. How does it go? I'm so meta. Even this acronym. All right, if anybody gets that joke, you either know where I got it from, or you can put acronyms together. Is food a dictionary? Yes, if you don't put the quotes on it. What kind of thing is food? It is a dictionary. What kind of thing is, quote, food? It is a string. Okay. Yep, glad I could help. That'll do it. And everybody try not to freeze out there because it's quite cold. Oh, and also your labs are graded for last Wednesday. You'll have Friday on Friday.